It's Thursday already. I'm so happy. Hey, Becca. Thank you so much for putting your name every time. I will remember. Maybe not this time, but obviously this time because you put your name there. But I will remember. Hey, Amanda. Yay, you joined. So glad to have you guys here. My voice is a hot mess today. It's allergies. I was about 2 years ago, I guess. Yeah, a year ago, January. I started having problems with super dry eyes, and it's because I sit in front of a computer, glasses, and the whole nine, which is really crappy for a graphic designer. But it's true. And the problem with dry eye is like if you have allergies, allergy medication dries you out as well. So I have a choice, either have extra dry eyes or have allergies. And I decided this summer to forego the allergy medication and see what would happen. Yeah, not so good. This voice is like, holy crap. And last night my eyes were burning like crazy. If I don't get my eye drops in at like exactly 12 hours apart, they start burning like crazy. So I might just go back on my full allergy medication and deal with the dry eye in a different way. I don't know. Anyway, so I apologize for the voice tonight. I'm a little around. So hello, Cece. Yay. I'm so glad you're here. I hope things are going for you overseas. Yeah, allergies are way no fun. And apparently it's tree allergies for me because that's what's big right now here in Nebraska. And there's super high allergy days. And even though we don't have the windows open in the house at all, just going out to get the mail apparently is enough to do this to me. So I'm like, wow, I had no idea how bad my allergies were. So I'll figure it out. Anyway, hey, Darlene, good to see you here. So glad to have you guys all popping in. Tonight we're going to work on my challenge card for Festive Friday, which comes out. This week we talked about watercoloring. Well, okay. Oh, there we go. Sorry, YouTube was telling me my connection was unstable. I have no idea what was going on with that. Hopefully I'm okay. Anyway, so last night I was on a call, well, a Facebook Live with a group of people. I wasn't on, I was watching. I'm getting to meet some people in a crafty group that I'm a part of. And she mentioned something about watercoloring and how she wanted to be able to do it and whatever. So I'll be watercoloring tomorrow. You should come over. So I've got some people that are joining me. So like Amanda's out here from Pear Blossom Press. So hello. I'm so glad to see you guys. So we're going to do some watercoloring. I'll talk about all the stuff that I have. I'm by no means an expert, but I do enjoy watercoloring and like figuring things out along the way. So I'm not like art educated, but I understand color and color theory and how to mix colors, and just from everything that I've played with, I like to share. So we'll talk about that, and I'll show you some really cool ways to use watercolors on different kinds of paper. And I might have a friend popping out tonight. He wanted to make some thank you cards for his professors. So I suggested some things to him. I said, hey, you could do some watercolor backgrounds. He's an art major. And so I told him that I would do some show and tell on easy watercolor backgrounds too. So we'll start with those and then go into some other watercoloring using some digi art that I just picked up from Alex Siberia. Yes. Okay. So enough blah, blah, blah. All right. And let's flip me down here. Yay. Belinda, it might be. I apparently didn't have a good connection for a minute or two there, so hopefully it'll clear up. It is like 4 o'clock here, and I'm sure people are starting to hit the internet kind of hard. So hopefully it clears up. So let me know if it doesn't, and I'll see if there's anything I can do, but I don't know. All right, so this is my card for Festive Friday. And there is a lot going on here. I'm so glad, like I've been thinking about needing to go back to a collage style because I really enjoy that. And so that's what I did for this card, a collage style. I will tell you, I am using more than 3 elements from the challenge list. So for those of you that don't know, festivefridaychallenge.com, it's a just for fun challenge that I run and am a part of. And every 2 weeks, we put out an inspiration list of 10 items, and you need to use just 3 of those items, and then you link up your project. So normally I stick to around 3, but I just kept adding them in and they kept working. So I have more than 3 items in here. Basically, almost anything you picked from this card would probably be good for the challenge. So anyway, yeah, it's pretty awesome. So let's get started with this because it's a ton of fun. Okay, so it's been forever and a day since I used embossing paste, and I don't know why, because I love it so much. If it was non-toxic, I might, you know, slather it on a piece of bread or something. I don't know. I love it that much, though. So this is the Altenew embossing paste, and I like to keep a piece of press and seal on top of it so that it stays fresh. And I've got a piece of copper cardstock here. I want to say it's like Kaiser Craft or something. I don't know. And I already embossed it with a striped embossing folder. Now, if I had looked, I would have found out that the embossing folder isn't available anymore. So, oh well. I will tell you, stripes is one of the items, so that's why they're in here. But it really does a cool effect, right? So anyway, yeah. So we're going to do some embossing on this. So I'm just going to take my embossing paste and put a dollop on my, this is just a piece of silicone mat, like for a kitchen, for use in a kitchen or whatever. I just cut them up into smaller pieces when I need it. And then I'm going to take some Distress Oxide spray. So yet another use for these sprays if you have a whole bunch of them. See, it's starting to leak at the top. They work really well for blending in with embossing paste too. So just a little pile of it there. And I'm getting, so this is going to be kind of like a baby yak green, baby poop green, I guess. I don't know. I don't have kids. Yes, you could use a scoreboard for sure if you wanted to put in stripes, or you could do stripes like a billion different other ways, right? But I wanted to do an embossing folder. I thought that would be cool. All right, and then just to freeform it, I'm just going to blob it on my piece here. And I already, when I was doing this, I already had the bird done, so I knew kind of how big of a space I needed. But I'm doing it in this order so that way this has some time to dry. And I don't mind that the stripes are showing through, the copper stripes are showing through. It looks awesome. Okay, so there's that. I'm going to put this in some water so it doesn't dry. All right. So there you go. Oh, and so Becca, so you know, Pear Blossom Press, her name is Amanda. Okay, so I'm going to set this aside to dry, and then we can work on some other parts while that dries. We might have to hit it with the heat gun, but we'll see. Okay, so then I wanted to do a little watercoloring, so I wanted to pull in this little Hummingbird. It's the folk Hummingbird set from Pink Fresh. I love Pink Fresh. They just came out with a whole new release today, and there's some really cool things in there. Amanda, this is the first time I've had a sink in my craft room, and I love it. I will never go back if I can help it. I really like having the sink in here because it's a utility tub, and I don't have to worry about it getting all gross and whatever. It's not like when we lived in Texas, my craft room was a spare bedroom, and we had a guest bathroom, and the kitchen wasn't too far away either, so it didn't really matter so much. I could go to either place, but I had to walk across the house and whatever, and hope I didn't drop or spill or whatever. So, all right, so I'm doing this up in VersaFine Clair. And I would have just used a block, but sometimes you need to double layer when you're doing watercolor paper. So did the week go by like super fast for everybody? It went by like blazing fast for me. I mentioned that my husband and I've mentioned it before, but my husband and I, we build, maintain, and design websites and such. And I basically start a new client every week for most months out of the year. So I finished up a client on Monday and I started a new one on Tuesday, and it just makes the week go by so fast. Ah, gotcha, Amanda. Well, you could put a sink in the garage. Your husband's great. I'm sure he would put one in for you. Okay, so I don't know why I just shook that. So we're going to do some watercolor. And this is the Altenew artist pan set. So, and I don't remember what colors I used. Oh, I think it was Green Hills, Green Meadows, and Seashore. I think I mixed those three along the way. And sometimes I use a block for a palette. And I have a palette, but it's buried underneath a bunch of stuff, so I'll just use this block. So, anyway, I got all this craft crap. My husband and I affectionately call everything craft crap. It's a term of endearment. Oh, you have big plans for the garage. And, you know, Becca, I have no idea where April went. It's crazy. Oh, I remember there's another color I need to add in here too. Okay, so watercoloring, my take on it is just like my take for anything else. It's what you like. So it doesn't have to be anything. If you want to learn a technique, that's one thing. If you just want to color and make it look pretty the way you want it to look, then that's a total another thing, right? So I'm just starting with this Green Hills color, and I know that I'm going to do some shading in here, so I'm just kind of putting it here towards the center. And then I'm going to grab this yellow. Come on. Why is this falling out of my hand? Oh my gosh. And I want to get this in here before it dries in place so that I can blend it out a little. So I want the rest of this to be kind of light, so I just added water to blend it out and then take it light. Now I know this guy is going to look totally different than the one that I did for the challenge. I mean, that's just the way watercolor works, right? So hey girl, I'm so glad you're here. We're watercoloring already. Wow, just a little sample. We're going to get into some more watercolor later. All right. So this was mostly Green Hills, and then I forget what this yellow is called. Oh, Pocket Full of Sunshine. And then, so I'm going to pull in Green Meadows, which is a darker shade of green. And not too much, because otherwise it'll take over the whole thing. So see, I'm adding like lots and lots of water. There's so much water in here that it's basically clear, very translucent. But when I put it down on the paper, it's going to be dark enough. And I'm just going to bring it up under a little bit to kind of make some shadows. And then now that I have it down, if I want to put a little bit more dark in here, I can. I just need to be careful about where I'm putting it. Because if I bring it in too much, then it's just going to blend in and it's all going to look the same. So just the tiniest little bits. And I'm just going like this, just little dabs. See, just little. And I'm letting the water do the work. See how that worked out? And then if I clean my brush, I can just kind of move it around a little bit more. And there, see, now I have a blend. Ha! You girls are so funny. I'm so glad that you invited me to that group, Amanda. I try not to join too many Facebook groups. Facebook is not my favorite medium, really. But it's kind of the place to be for group things. So here I am. All right. So this back wing, I'm just doing in the darker color because it's behind. Right. And then let's grab, okay, so this seashore color is more of an aqua blue. So right here, I've created 3 shades of that same blue. So by putting a little bit on my palette and then dipping it in water and doing it again, and then dipping in water and doing it again, I have 3 shades to work with. So now I can work with the lightest shade first and see how I like it. And then if I want to go into a darker shade to add some shading or whatever, I can do that. I'm going to go lighter. A whisper. All right, and then I can go into like my medium here and just do some of those little dot kind of thing on this little edge right here. And that's gonna, since it's still wet, it's gonna bleed out and it's gonna pull it into, but it's gonna be more like a shadow or shading. Sue, it is Pink Fresh. And it has a really pretty, there's a really pretty floral that goes with it that I just did for a hop. Oh, for the Spread Joy Not Germs hop. I used it for that. So here, let me show you. Here. See, I use this one for the Spread Joy Not Germs. I use the little 3 dots to put in one of Amanda's Easy Lights. So I really like this set. It's very versatile. Okay, so I'm going to avoid this little right now because I want to color in these guys darker, but I don't want them to bleed out, so it needs to dry. Okay, so then the last thing I really need to do is these little tail feathers. And I'm going back to that dark green to start. And then into this medium green. These are 2 different colors, but they blend really well together. And then probably just some water here to blend it all out. So there's that. I don't know why I have that down there. Here we go. And then it's probably dry enough now. Yeah, it's dry enough. So I'm just going to go with the dark here and fill in these little patterns. And he's done. This guy is not as, the body, I guess, isn't as bright as the other one. So this is the original and this is the new one. It's pretty close. So yeah. Hey, so Amanda, we're doing the Kraft collabs, Pear Blossom Press collab tomorrow. Yay. And I think you'll like that one too. I use this really cool stencil from A Colorful Life. Okay, so yeah, I'm done with this. All right, so let's see how we're doing here. That looks like it's still really wet, and it is. Yeah, that's still super wet. Let me pop some heat on this. See you, Becca. Stay safe. Hi, Gwen. So I totally should have done one of these ahead of time. Oh, well. You see how it's bubbling up? That's okay. It's going to deflate after it cools. Sue, this is embossing paste from Altenew, and I just colored it with some Distress Oxide ink spray. Let's see if that's dry enough. Yeah, it's dry enough to work with. Okay, so it's still a little mushy underneath, but at least the top has a little skim on it, so that'll work for now. Just have to be careful. Okay, so I'm going to set these guys aside real quick. We're going to come back to these, obviously. Okay, so what's next? Oh, let's do some spatters. So on this one, I started off by doing some spatter here with the Lucky Clover oxide spray, but then I realized that it wasn't sticking to the copper foil. Go figure. Even after I tried to dry it, it wouldn't dry. So let's forgo that for this time. And I'm going to use a Copic marker, or you can use, like any alcohol marker will work. And this is how you do spatter with alcohol markers. So you go to the brush tip and you grab a piece of acetate paper or acetate window sheet, plastic, whatever, and you scrape it and flick it off the edge of the nib. I don't know why I did that. I always expect it to come dripping off the edge here, and it doesn't. All right, so see, I've got spatter on there now. So it's almost instant dry. So I really like that technique. I learned that at the Copic station at Creativation. All right. So there's all that good stuff. Okay, so we need to do some cutouts. Okay. So I've got this cutout. This is from the Spirals and Spheres die, stamp and die set, and we're just going to use the center piece of that. But I'll end up with a full usable piece for another project, so that's good. And then I'm going to put together 2 circles to make this little frame here. And then I'm pulling in another Pink Fresh, which is the Classic Words die set. And I'm grabbing the congratulations or the congrats. And I'm missing a piece of green cardstock. So, oh, there it is. It fell on the floor. All right. So that goes there. That goes there and there and there. So I did have it here. No, I didn't either. Oh, I put them over there. So I should be able to run these all at the same time. And if you've been on my live broadcast, or if you've seen my other ones before, and I wanted to show this to you because I know, I mean, at least Amanda has this, the iCrafter Self-Healing Mat. I'm using this in my Gemini Junior. So the sandwich that works for me is a Sizzix acrylic plate because it's slightly thinner than the one that comes with the Gemini Junior. So a Sizzix acrylic plate, my iCrafter plate, and then on top goes the Gemini Junior plate. And that's like the perfect sandwich for me every time. So Amanda, if you have a Gemini or Gemini Junior, that's the magic sandwich. And it works awesome. I don't get any of those little marks on my cardstock anymore. I love it. So thank you for telling me to go visit Linda at her station at Creativation, because getting the heads up on this tool was awesome. Yeah, so basically I got scientific about it, and I had Big Shot plates as well from my Big Shot. And I thought, oh, let me see if I have a combination of plates that would work. And I took the Gemini plates, like all the whole sandwich of Gemini. So this plus the metal plate, plus the magnetic plate, plus the plastic shim, plus the whole thing together. And I measured it to see how thick it was. And then I came back and figured out how I could get it to work with the crafter mat. So it is a Sizzix acrylic plate. Okay, because it's slightly thinner than the Gemini. And then my iCrafter plate, my iCrafter mat, whatever you want to call it, and then my Gemini plate. That's it, just 3 pieces. If I need a little extra for some reason, I use like a piece of paper because it really only needs that much. And yeah, Gwen, totally math in action. I got the ruler out and everything. I'm like, oh, that's actually a measurable amount. Let's see what that is. So, because it's like maybe a 1/16 of an inch different if you use the Sizzix plate versus the Gemini plate. But I found that with the 2 Gemini plates, it was way too thick, and I was afraid that it was going to mess up my dies. So this seems to work out awesome. Yeah, and it's totally less plates, which makes me so happy. Okay, so I'm going to run these. All right, and that's it. So let's see how awesome that was. Pops out like butter. Love that. So awesome. I mean, this has got little notches all the way around. It's so perfect. Pops out like butter. Yeah, send it around. I'm going to do a video on it because I'm going to review it. This is probably in my top 5 craft inventions of like must have, right? We're always like the plates. It just drives me nuts, especially if you're going to run something like this through and use a die, and then you get like all the scratches and stuff on it, or you get the, even if you use a clean plate that's only been marred from the tops of your dies, you still get the indents and things. I don't get that anymore. It's awesome. Okay, so I don't need this piece. All right, it cuts through. And look at how gorgeous that was. And then this is the coup de grace. So this little super teeny tiny itty bitty piece. Oh, come on. It cut it perfectly like a couple days ago. I think it just got stuck somewhere. There we go. I mean, it's like perfection. I do have a little piece here I need to snip off, but I ran all of that through at the same time though. So totally stoked about that. Okay. Let me pop these guys out. I should have brought over a pokey tool. There it is. Like I said, I did have one little piece that decided it wanted to hang on for some reason. I don't know why. No little extra hairs even. I mean, or very little, I should say. There. All right, so now we can assemble. All right, you don't need. This is a new container of glue. Behave. I feel like I should be looking at the comments. Hi, Marie. I'm so glad you guys all popped in today. All right. Beautiful. Okay, so I do, so another, one of the items in the inspiration list for this challenge is gift card holder. So I have a piece of cardstock that is 5.5 by 10, okay, 5.5 by 10. And then from this side, I scored in at 4 1/4. And from this side, I scored in at 1.5 inches. And then I'm going to put some just a little piece of double-sided tape on the side. So I don't know, Amanda, does a gift card holder count as an interactive card? Because it does something, it holds money. Cold hard cash. Okay, so I'm going to just fold that over. And now I have a pocket for a gift card. And I left my bone folder over there on a regular 4 1/4 by 5.5 card. Wah-ha. Yeah. So that's my favorite way to do a gift card holder. It's no fuss, no muss. Right there. Super easy. All right. Pop in my background. Trying to avoid this area because it's still a little mushy. Okay, out of everything that I needed to die cut, I guess what I forgot. I don't have any more room on my plate anyway. How about I do that like right now? So then I'm just going to finish this up. Kind of ended up having the bird kind of as a part of the circle. Oh, Marie. Yeah, sometimes it's hard to see on the white background. I haven't decided. I don't know. I guess maybe I have decided. I really like doing my videos on a white background, but it has its drawbacks. But sometimes working on a black background has its drawbacks too. So for the congrats, I'm just going to put a teeny tiny bit of adhesive on the places where I know it's going to touch. Here we go. Because this is so thin, I don't think that there would be any way I could put any foam underneath it. So it's just going to kind of float there. All right, so pop on this bad boy. Oops, and I'm done with the glue. So kind of a collage look. And when I did this one originally, I put some like thin strips, just little pieces around the circle to kind of hold it in place. I'll do that later. So, oh, don't worry about being late. Whatever. People pop in and pop out. This is my 6th episode. I run with scissors weekly. And it's fun. So we always do, I always start with a card, and the card is always a challenge card for either festivefridaychallenge.com, which is a just for fun challenge site that I own and run. And then on the opposite weeks, we do Tic-Tac-Toe Challenge, which is also another just for fun challenge site. And I'm on the O team for that. They do, theirs is every week, but it's the X team and then the O team and then the X team and then the O team, you know, tic-tac-toe, X's and O's. So I'm on the O team, which happens to be the opposite weeks of Festive Friday. So there you go. Fun, right? Yay. Here, let me flip up real quick and then I can maybe get you an even closer look. Okay. There you go. And then this one ended up being, this is the original. The paste on this one is just a little darker, which actually I prefer. It won't focus. Focus. There we go. Ooh, that looks fun. The color's changing. Anyway, yeah, I really like these. So I'm glad I went back to collage because I miss this style. All right. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so hey, watercolor. We said we were going to talk watercolor. All right. So I know I'm probably going to be speaking to a variety of levels here. So if you like watercoloring or you have a technique that you like to do or a way you like to do something, of course, just, you know, chime in with, you know, a tip or whatever. Let's see. Let me catch up real quick. Texture and shine, nice touches. Yes. Does the Copic ink dry instantaneously? Yes, it does. And which is why I did it on the metallic sheet, because it dries so fast. That's another thing that you can do on washi tape, because, you know, washi tape, like, nothing really sticks to it but Copic ink, alcohol ink does. So if you want to put spatter on something that you have washi tape on, use your Copic or your alcohol ink marker. It's a good little trick. Okay, so I'm going to show you a couple of different things that I have, and we'll talk about different ways to use these real quick, and then we'll do some coloring. I just need to do a little reset here, move some things out of the way. Okay, so basically, oh, and I needed to pull out my paintbrush. I guess I can pull out. Okay, so I'll show you a couple different mediums. So watercolor comes in a lot of different mediums. And you can have your liquid watercolor. Your leaky pens. Yes. Okay. So yes, get out your watercolors, Heidi. Get them out. Okay. So Pink Fresh makes liquid watercolors, and there are other brands that make liquid watercolors. They are very, very intense. So literally I put out a drop or less. I just take the dropper and I like dab it on a palette or something. And that's enough, really. They are very, very intense. Okay, so another one that's similar to that is the all-purpose ink from Sukaneko. And so this is very similar, but it is, you can heat set this. So on fabric, you can use these on fabric. And if you iron it, it says that it will become permanent. So there you go. Heat setting, not required though. So you can use these as watercolors. They're not, I wouldn't say they're like pure watercolors because they're going to become permanent. Same way that you can use a lot of other inks to watercolor. But a lot of times once they're dry, the ink won't move again. In most cases with watercolors, things will move if you put water on them, right? Oh, the splotch. Yeah, you know, I hear conflicting theories on the whole why your marker splotches. And some people do say that like balancing it out by taking the other cap off actually works. Okay, so then I have, of course, watercolor pan sets, and these all come in, you know, different sizes and shapes. So if it's a little small cube like this or a little pan like this, this is a half pan. And they come, you know, different shapes and sizes. This one from Altenew is their new one, but watch what happens. They don't stay in place. So that's the only thing I really don't like about the set is that they don't stay in place. But it's a nice little starter set. It is select colors from this larger pan set from Altenew. Okay, so those. And then the ones that I was just using are their artist grade ones. These here. And these are super smooth and creamy, and I love these. These are probably my favorite colored watercolors. The brush markers I use for something different. And then Altenew also has, and other brands also have metallic watercolors, which we'll use today too. So those and those. I'm going to set these aside unless someone wants to see something specific about them. And I'm going to set aside the Pink Fresh ones. Maybe we'll get to those later if you want. Okay, and then the last ones that I have are the watercolor brush markers, which are also very popular right now. Again, these are very intensely pigmented, so a little goes a long way. And what I find a lot of times, if I'm not doing some kind of water-to-water technique, I'm taking this pen and putting a little bit of watercolor on the palette and then using a plain brush with water to grab the color and dilute it and stuff. So these can be difficult, especially for beginners if they don't know where to start, because it's so intense, it's just going to soak right into the paper, and then you can't move it around, and it can be a real mess. And it can be one of those things where you're like, I hate watercoloring. No, you need a little instruction. It's okay. Okay, so the brushes that I have are these. Well, these are my favorites, I should say. These are I found these on Amazon. These are from a company called Transon, Transon. And I do have a supply list, and these are on there. They were very reasonably priced. They are goat hair. So they're nice and soft. I don't know how I put it. There's a heaviness to them when you get them wet that helps to move the water around, and it holds a lot of water. So I really like these. I also have, this is called Simply Simmons. And I probably got this one from Michael's, but it is not, I don't think this is real bristles. This is synthetic. And it doesn't have, like, when I put water on here, I don't feel heaviness like I do on this one. So even though I think, they're almost the same kind of size. So I prefer these ones that have the natural bristle because the way that they soak up the water. This one, is this the one that you use? Mayhem, I don't know your name. So, but I mean, I like this one. I don't have any smaller ones of this. I only have I think 10s and 12s, and they work pretty good. But I like these even better, these Transom brushes. Okay, and then I did pull out just a generic Artist Loft brush. Sometimes I use that if I'm going to do a big, oh, hi, Tara. You subscribed the other day. I should have known that was you. If I'm going to put down water for a wash, I'll use a big brush like this. Okay, so let's talk about, oh, you use the ones from Amazon. Good. I'm glad I'm not the only one. I really, really like them. Okay, so I'm going to show. So if you've not been to my lives before, this is the part where we go totally ad lib and free, what do I call it? Free form, just kind of whatever. I have nothing planned. Ask questions. I'll show you things. We'll talk. It's crafty discussion time. You can ask questions about me or, whatever. I guess I'll just take all of this out. No, I won't either. I pulled out a color that I don't think I really meant to pull out, but actually what I wanted was this Blaze. Yeah, okay. So let's start with something easy like a watercolor wash. So Autumn Blaze. No, let's do Sea Breeze Limeade. Maybe. Okay, so for something like this, I might put them on my palette first, but I'm going to drop this behind a piece of black here so you can see a little better. Heidi, what's for dinner? I got to figure that out when I get off here. Okay, so I'm just putting a ton of water down. And really, you just want the paper to be able to soak up the water. This is a good technique for watercolor paper. If you try to do this with other papers that are not watercolor paper, then they're going to pill up. So let's start with Midnight Violet. So this is a really intense color. And I'm just going to touch it. See, look, I just touched it. Poof. Because it's wet here and this is wet on wet. Stamp a critter in the corner, watercolor, and then I have a lot of negative space left over. Oh, okay, gotcha. Yes, I can show you that later. Remind me. Okay, so if you have this wet already and you're going to use your brush markers, this is a really good way to do it because you see how that just kind of flowed out. And then if I have extra water on the sides here, I can move it around and that's just going to keep going. And if I want to dilute it, I can just add in some more water and it's just going to keep moving around. All right, now if I want to blend in a little bit here, let's go for Sea Breeze. That's a little bit of a lighter blue. but a bright blue. And because it's already wet on wet, it's gonna start blending together. So at this point, if I really wanted to blend this line, I would take probably a smaller brush and just start getting these guys to move together a little bit. Pull the purple down into the blue and then pull the blue back up into the purple. All right, this is just paper, guys. So if you have watercolors and you have brushes and you have watercolor paper, just give it a try and like figure things out on your own. Happy accidents happen all the time, right? So you just add a whole bunch of water and you might end up with something really cool like this. So then I'm going to add, this is limeade. And we know that's going to turn the blue into green. I'll go up into that a little bit. Whoops, I went down. I didn't mean to go down. I don't know if I can recover that. Probably not. I'm just going to let that be. But I'm going to come back in with my brush on the top here and get these guys to blend in together again. Oh, I see. I mean, I've never used the Artezas, so I don't know how pigmented they are. Yes, these are like super, super pigmented. They were, when I first got them, I thought, I'm never going to use these because I tried once and then I was like, oh, that's terrible. I'm never going to do that again. Okay, so I'm just letting it drip down onto my towel here just to get some of this extra off. And see, look, just give it a minute and that turned out really awesome. All right, so super simple background. Okay, so if you don't want to go crazy like this, we can do, let's do some more stripes. Okay, so in this case, there's a couple things I can do. I'm going to take this bigger brush. This is a size 4. And I'm going to make a line. I'm going to pop my color in it and let it go. It's going to stay in its place. All right, so that's one way that I could do this. Another way I could do this is by putting some of this, where's the little push? Is putting some of it onto my palette and then grabbing it with my wet brush and then putting it on dry. So either way works. If I was going to do stripes, I would probably do it this way because I have more control with my brush to drag it across like so. And I would use a larger piece than what I planned on using so that way I could cut my ends off. Because, you know, and you always get like that little starter spot. So that way I don't have to come back and fix it. That way I can go whoosh and come right across. And here's what you want. Well, I mean, you might want it, you might not want it. So you see how I have this water pooling up here? I'm going to let that like sit so that way it dries that way and you get that variegation of color, right? In my mind, watercolors should show those kinds of things, the variegation of color and how, you know, the water. And that really says watercolor to me. Okay, so let's do... Okay, so I'm going to do 2 things. I'm going to take... put some regular sea breeze here, and I'm going to mix these 2 together. That wasn't enough of the purple. So that's going to get me that intermediary color. And then I can come back in with just the straight up sea breeze and put that in. Okay, I got you, Sue. All right, so stripes are super easy. You can do them at an angle. You can do all sorts of other things. So one of my fellow Altenew designers, Amber Rain Davis, gosh, I love that girl. She's like really awesome at doing shapes. So she'll take a circle of water like this, and then she'll just grab that and drop it in and create just random shapes. Oops, I guess I meant to get water first. You don't have to. If you're going to do something like that, of course, you want it to come off the page, just like you would with any other kind of background paper. You want to make sure that it looks like you cut it from a larger sheet. Sometimes, for some reason, that seems to be much more organic to us. Like it's much more appealing to see that kind of thing. So see how I have this watered down like a ton. But now that it's down, grab that real quick. I can take the limeade and put more in if I want. So doing backgrounds like these is the kind of thing that will help you to understand how your watercolors work, whether they're pans or liquid, right? Yeah, Gwen. So you're absolutely right. When you do wet on wet, you get a softer line, right? If you were to come in and do just dry, you're going to get more of a hard line. Yep, exactly. Like I said, I had a different color in it. Oh, well. So this is like one of those things, like if you were struggling with what to do, you know, pull out your watercolors and make some backgrounds and see if something speaks to you and you would want to use it for a project. All right, so that's the liquid watercolors and just kind of getting used to using your watercolors in general. Hey, Miss Tamp, what's going on? All right, so, okay, this one is like drying awesome and I can't wait to use it now. Look at that. That is so darn cool. That one's really pretty. It looks better in person. Okay. So move these wet guys out of the way. All right, so that's the liquid ones. And actually I might use those in a little bit. Let's see. Oh, Sue wanted me to use the 36 pan. Okay, so I'll use the 36 pan. I was going to use the artist ones, but they're the same. The artist ones are a better quality, and by that I mean they're creamier. So the 36 pan set is like a mid-grade or student grade, and some of the colors can be grainy, which is okay. That's just a look. Let's do some oranges and some of these. You have to let them soak up some water first, though. And these take just a little bit longer. Let's see, what do I have here? What did we do? Okay, so let's see how we are. So with these, you definitely need like a palette. This is just a plastic palette from Altenew. I have little cups too. I have all sorts of different things. Like I said, I've used my acrylic blocks. Sometimes if I'm just in a hurry and I'm working on something, I don't feel like pulling out a palette, I just grab a block if I'm doing something quick. Okay, so, but with this stuff, so now that they're getting a little wet, you can see that it's grabbing the color. These, like I said, are a lot harder than the artist palette. But you can get a pretty intense color with them. Okay. All right, so, you know, that's a good color. And come into this lighter shade here. Let's see. Oh, you know what? Let me get this one. I should have wet more of these. This is one of my favorite combinations. So like a shade of pink, a shade of orange. I like that. The yellow and the pink, it makes an orange. Okay, so this one has like too much ink in it. So basically what I did is I put more water in here and I'm sopping it up with my brush. It's like, if it ends up being more creamy than watery, that's too much ink and it'll end up drying glossy. So that was a quick fix. All right. So, Sue, what particular problems are you having with the 36 pan set? I'm going to move into an actual picture. Okay, so while I'm waiting for Sue to answer, these are from, I love these. These are from Alex Siberia. This one just came out. I can't remember the name of it, but it's this long skinny card style. Gorgeous with like the dahlia and the sunflowers on it. And then this one is a peony. So let's start with the peony. Okay, so two ways that I could paint this. I could either do wet on wet or dry on wet. So if I did wet on wet, let me grab some green in here. Alex Siberia, she has an Etsy store, and these are digital. Okay. So if I'm doing wet on wet, I'm like, see this, I've got some leaves here. I'm going to fill in my leaf with water so that it's ready to receive the ink. Okay, but I didn't color in this little spot here, and I'm not going to color in this whole thing. When you do something like this, you need to work in sections, so little pieces, little pieces. So yeah, and Ms. Tamp, yeah, absolutely. So using the palette is definitely helpful because if you take this straight from the watercolor and put it on here, you don't really know what you're going to get. So put it on your palette, whatever that may be, and kind of see how watered down it is. And if you want to water it down more, even better is to grab a scrap and test it out before you use it and say, oh, that's darker than I expected, even on the palette. So I'm going to grab I'm just going to load up my brush with water and put another one next to it on the side here to water out whatever's on my brush. And see, now I have a lighter color. Okay, so I like that lighter color, and this is already wet here. So it's just going to start letting that spread. If I want it darker, so like right here, the leaf kind of folds over. So inherently there would be a little darker spot right here. Yes. So I can grab some of this darker that I was working with previously and just do a couple little dots on the side here. And it's going to spread. That's okay. That's going to help it blend. But now I've got this little darker spot here. Now I need to just let this sit. Okay. Thanks for stopping by, Gwen. Okay, so I can't really do one that's adjacent to it. I need to move somewhere else. So if I'm still working on leaves, I'm going to come over here and work on this leaf. Doing watercolor like this is not fast. But I'm going to do the same technique. I'm going to drop in that color. And I'm going to look for some places where I might want some shading done preliminary, you know, like initial shading. I'm probably going to come back later and add in some more. All right. And that's starting to get me the look that I'm going for. All right. So keep working my way around. Same thing on flower petals. So you got to think about, and this is where a reference photo comes in really handy. Go out to Google, Google what the flower is, and look for pictures that you like, colors that you like, ones that have really good idea of shadow and light, and use that as your reference. So that way you're not working blind. I didn't pull a reference for this today, but I probably normally would. Okay, so I'm going to just grab one of these petals in here. It's a peony, so I'm going to go with like a pink color. And see, this one came off really, really creamy. So I know that I need to add water to that. And also I shouldn't have my water on the other side of my work because that's just asking for trouble. So I'm going to start lighter and work my way in. This is opposite the way I work with Copics. With Copic markers, I go from dark to light, but those blend so much easier. With watercolor, once you've added something that's too dark, there's no way that you're going to lighten it up without substantial work. All right, so I had a lot of water in here. So this is just going to have to sit. If I didn't want it to sit, I could grab a paper towel and carefully dab it up. That gets me maybe in a better place. I had too much water on my brush to begin with as well. Okay. Gotta let it sit. Move on to my next one. Let's do this a little bit here. All right, move on to my next one. Too much water. And so on and so forth. So as you can see, this is going to take you some time. Yeah, Miss Tamp, watercolor mat on everything. You can do so many cool things with watercolor. Okay, so these are getting kind of dry here. I can come back into that same darker shade of green or the hue that I was using and start messing with shadow if I want a little more. And at some point, a shadow is not just a darker shade of that color, right? It's maybe green plus a little bit of black or a blue even. Well, a lot of times it's a blue because you want it to get really kind of more mottled than a black would provide you. So I'm going to take this blue here and put it in the screen. And now I kind of have more of a brown green. Let me show you what that looks like. So this is plus a little bit of blue. See how I ended up with more of a brown. So when I put that back here in the recesses, realistically, that's more what a shadow looks like. Yes. And here I'm just doing little dots again to get the ink to move. This is still a little bit wet, the leaf, so it is going to move. All right, so this is going to take me like a long time to do. Amanda, you had a question about what to do if you have an image, but you've got white around it and you don't want to do a full up background. Okay, so you can do this same thing, a wet on wet technique. I'm going to show you how to do it on this one. So let's say I want to put like a blue background. Let's see what this blue looks like. Yeah, so it's kind of like a blue gray. Maybe it's just because my water's dirty. Okay, so I'm not going to use this brush. I'm going to grab a bigger-ish brush. All right, so this is a size 4. Okay, make sure that your piece is dry. Grab your brush and start putting water around it. Being very careful to make sure that you're not going to actually get it on your image. And you're probably not going to make it all the way up to the line. That's living dangerously. Okay, so I've got a little bit going on there. I'm going to grab some of this blue hue. Yeah, it is really a blue. That's okay. And I'm going to drop it in. So it's kind of like watercolors answer to doing a blended background after the fact. All right, if you don't want to do the wet on wet, you can do dry as long as you've got as long as your brush is really wet. So see how I'm just moving that in? And right now I'm doing like a nice light kind of thing. So I'll add more water in here to let it go out a little further. But say I don't want it to be subtle. Say I want it to be bold. Go for it. It's wet right now, so I'm going to grab some of this blue. And I'm going to let it just trail along in this puddle of water here. As long as you have a water barrier built up, it's not going to go into the flower. Okay. So you just got to be careful about where your brush went. Okay. So see, as long as this is wet and this is dry, this isn't going to push into that because and you're on watercolor paper, it's not going to push because it can't. There's a tension barrier there from the water, right? Oh, science. Then you could even do, depending on how your watercolors are, if you wanted, see how like I'm putting this in here and it's kind of moving it around. Heidi's mesmerized. That's awesome. Heidi, what's for dinner? Did you tell me? Oh, I love it. What are you making? 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 Okay, so totally cool, right? Let me think. Oh, so tomorrow also, Altenew is doing a watercolor hop. And I really want to show you guys the cards. So hang on. I'm going to show you a couple cards. Those two. This one. I have another one that I was just thinking. Oh, bunches. Oh my gosh. Apparently, I love watercolor. Okay, so let me think about this. This one is coming out on Saturday. And this is for my sketch starters with Nicole. So this will be on the Altenew channel. Sorry, Heidi. Anyway, this was just, this is heat embossed and then just wet on wet. So the color went where the color did. And I don't care, like I didn't do anything special to make darker light spots. It's just wherever the color turned out. Okay, so this is coming out on Saturday, Altenew channel. Sunday on my channel. This one you guys won't see anywhere. This is for an online class for Altenew. This is ink smushing. So same thing like you do with your Tim Holtz distress and your distress oxides and other inks. You can do that with watercolor. You can put them on a palette like this and smush, right? So awesome smush technique. Okay. Oh, this one we did a couple weeks ago here. A Tall and Skinny. We were messing around. Someone wanted me to do some ideas with the spirals and spheres stamp set. So we did watercolor stamping. So basically here you take a stamp and you put your watercolor on it and you stamp. Okay, and we used this black on the metallic with the metallic watercolors. Yeah, Heidi, message me anytime. Okay, so this one just came out with Altenew. This was their Paint a Flower. This is the hydrangea. This one was super simple. This one just took me a few minutes. This one is really quick. I have a video on this one, super quick. This one took me forever. So this one is on par with this. This took me, just this one flower here, took me 40 minutes. So super, super complex, pulling the water out, putting in shadows, things like that. That's like a lot of time. Okay, but what I wanted to show you, and you can't really see it here, but you see this? I did the same thing as I did here, except I did it in a really light gray. And it makes such a huge difference versus the flowers just sitting on the page. Adding in, okay, so I'm going to flip this up and see if I can get it better. Can you see that? Yeah, there you go. That's the same technique I just showed you, Amanda. So that's how you can get a really great background without having to do like creating a scene. Okay, and then this is the one that's coming out tomorrow with the Altenew hop. I love this background. This took me no time, and I have a video on this too. This background took me 5 minutes, and it could take you 5 minutes too. It's not hard, I promise. Okay, so those are some samples. Let's, so now you got a little bit of an idea here. I mean, there's so many cool things you could do. And we're coloring like realistic or trying to at least here. And look at what's happening here. This is really starting to get shadow and look real. At some point, just like with Copic coloring or any coloring, you have the ugly duckling moment, right? You're looking at this thing and you're thinking, oh my God, this is never going to look good. I should just stop now. So when you have that moment, walk away, right? And then come back to it and start adding in more layers, right? And just work at it little by little. And at some point, you will get to that, oh yeah, this looks really awesome. And it's totally worth the effort. Like that one with the irises, I'm not giving that away. Well, actually, my mom said that she liked it, so she might get it for Mother's Day. But otherwise, it wasn't going anywhere. And these even, I might not put these on cards depending on how they turn out. They might just go into a portfolio for me to enjoy or frame or something like that, right? So yeah, very cool. And when this dries, I'm going to have some really cool lines on here. This is going to look really cool. So when I finish these up, I'll definitely share them with you guys. But another cool thing you can do, let's see. Oh, you know what? Let's do it. Let's do it on Kraft. Huh? So I did, to answer someone's question like way earlier, these are from Alex Siberia. They're Digi. I printed them out on my laser printer because especially the watercolor paper, it's thicker and my laser printer has a manual feed. So I fed them through on manual feed and they came out gorgeous. The cool thing about being on the laser printer is that I could foil this too, which I thought would look really awesome, but I just didn't have time today. Okay. We might come back to that one. So let's do, I did it on Kraft too. Look at that. That's so awesome. Okay. Yeah, Sue, sure, no problem. I'm glad that this is maybe helping you a little bit. Okay, so with Kraft, a lot of craft paper, or this is parchment by Altenew, craft paper by Fawn, any brand that is craft. A lot of times it's a smoother paper and it doesn't pill up. Try it first and make sure that it's not going to, but honestly, like you probably won't have a problem with it. Okay, so let's go into some purple. And for this one, I'm going to go straight to paper. I'm not going to add extra water because it's not watercolor paper, right? So even though it's not going to pill, we don't want to put a whole lot of water on it. So either come back in lots of layers after they've dried, or start with intense colors to begin with. And go from there. So I find with craft paper, a nice thing to do in that, like in that last sample that I showed you that's coming out tomorrow, is to try and leave some of the craft showing. I think that's some of the reason this looks as cool as it does. So you notice that I haven't talked at all about light or dark, or where the light source is coming from or anything like that. I mean, it's something that I've never, on occasion, I think about it if it's important for an image or whatever. But I'm not always looking for the light source. I'm looking for like where a shadow might happen because the petal or a leaf is covering or twisted or, whatever. But I'm not always looking for a light source in particular. I think that's probably because I do a lot of botanical stuff versus like people, where you want to like catch the highlight of the cheek or something like that. I mean, you do that too, like on a flower petal or whatever, you might want to catch the highlight somewhere. And you have to think about that, yes, but it's not always about like, what direction is the sun coming from or whatever. And I think Kathy Rasmussen, I think she says something similar to that. I heard her say that. I'm like, oh yeah, I guess I do that. So like right now, I'm just totally winging it. I have no idea what I'm doing, except that I'm coloring these all in purple. So Heidi, as far as like a laser printer, yeah, it's really nice to have. It's actually for our business, but of course I'm using it for my crafting too. I have a inkjet printer down in my craft room that I use sometimes for other things. We have, I used to have a HP, just a black and white laser printer that worked really well for crafty things. Maybe it was color. I don't remember. But then it died. That one wasn't too expensive. And now we have like a multi-function laser printer up in our office. All right. So I really don't know where I'm going with this yet. I think I said that already. I kind of feel like it's mess so far. Oh, yeah. An inkjet for color pencil. You could use the inkjet for Copic too. And of course, if you want to do any foiling. Oh, yeah. So I'm in the basement. And even though the weather's getting nice outside, it's still kind of cold down here. So I had the space heater on. And I just realized I'm like hot. There we go. It's coming together. This one just has so many little pieces to it. Okay, so that's like all the little insides done. So what I'm going to do is take this purple, put a little more in there, and then I am going to put a little bit of, whoa, that was a lot of black. Put some black in there. Let's see what we've got. Where's my scratch paper? Oh, I don't know. Yeah, it's pretty dark. Oh, that's cool. About your Epson. Okay, so this is like a black purple. Put more purple in there. There, that's better. So you can see this is going to be darker than just the, let me put the regular purple up against it. See, so this is the regular purple. This is with some black in it. Yeah. So what paper do you use, Amanda, for your alcohol markers? I don't know if I like where this is going, guys. We might just abandon this. Oh, you know what I really need is a smaller brush. Tiny brush. I think I went too dark to begin with, and I should have done something lighter, but it is what it is. So when that happens, you can just, do something completely off the chart and like blow it up by just putting a big blob of color on it and calling it good. Although I see maybe the thing with kraft is that it's kind of dark to begin with, and then once it dries, it's lighter. So maybe these won't be so bad. See, guys, ugly duckling face. I'm like, yeah, this one will take some work, I think. Yeah, so I don't like that one. That's the one I don't like. There. It's better. So maybe once that whole thing gets colored in and I put a little bit more shading on these little edges here, that's going to look okay. So just got to keep working on it, right? All right. Thanks for stopping by, Heidi. Okay. So that's on Kraft. I mean, so as you can see, you can do really cool things on Kraft. So like I can even come in yellow on Kraft works. Obviously white on Kraft works really well. See, I can color these guys in too. All right, so I would color those in, and then I might do that same kind of background treatment, except I'm going to do something dark. So I'm going to do that blue, and I'm going to add some black into it. Again, like way too much black. Black is such a strong color. There we go. I need to move this. In this case, I don't want to bring it right up to the edge. Again, I want to be able to see some of that craft through it. And if I add, now that I've got it in place, I can add a little bit more water, let it roll a little bit. Yeah, that'll look really cool. Okay. Oh, no. Okay. That's crummy, Amanda. I'm glad you kept them separated, but yeah, obviously one is not as good as the other. All right, so this one has some promise. It's just going to take a little while, right, to get some detail into the dahlia here, but that's going to look pretty cool. Okay, so Tiffany, you want to know how you shade with watercolor. You let a piece dry and it gets darker or harsh edge. Okay, so let me pull out another sample piece. Actually, I just use this. Okay, so if you're going to do shading, all right, so you've got a rectangle or a square here. All right, and it's going to dry pretty much about the same shade. You want to let it dry for just a little bit. You don't want it to be completely dry. So I can still see a little bit of sheen of water there, or I can kind of feel that it's still a little wet. That's when you want to come back in and start dropping down a little bit of more color. All right, and then even more, just back a little further, because you wanted to be able to, it's like a Copic marker. So when you're coloring with Copics, if you let whatever color it is you want to blend into, if you let that dry for too long, right, and you come back in with the Copic, sometimes you get the ring, right? It's because the ink that you're trying to blend into is already dry. So that's why even when you're doing Copic coloring, you need to work it in pieces, because you really don't, if you're blending, you don't want the ink to dry. In this case too, you really don't want the watercolor to dry completely. If you run into the case where it is dry, like say this triangle here is dry, yes? So I want to add more orange to it. Right, I'm going to end up getting that hard line here because this is wet and this is dry. So you need to do something about it first. So let's look at this one then instead. Is I want to maybe just get a little bit of water down in place. Whether maybe you're spritzing it with a spray a little bit. And that one's kind of tough because you don't want to get those little water spots. But that's the problem that you're running into, is that what you're working into is already dry, right? So if it's a little bit wet still, you're going to be able to add in color and it's going to be able to move in organically without getting that dry line. Sometimes the dry line is what you want. So like when I was doing this, I wanted those dry lines. I wanted to be able to see that kind of funky detail. But that has to be like a decision that, yes, that's the look I'm going for. Whereas in the flower, I kept working this flower while it was wet. So I put down the light pink, and basically I covered this whole flower in this light pink color. And then as it dried, I just put a little bit of darker shade in the center and then let it bloom out. And then as it started to dry a little bit more, I worked in little separate areas in order to make it. No, I didn't. This is just the stamp. I just didn't let my brush get any closer to the stamp line. There'll be a video on it tomorrow, Sue. You'll see how it works. It's pretty easy. Okay, so again, yeah, I've got a little bit. Now, if this is the case where this is dry and this is wet, you can come back with just plain water and very lightly try to work out your line a little bit. You run the risk of picking up the ink though. So really it's best to keep working it while it's still a little bit damp. So this is dry, this is damp but not dry. So I might be able to work my color in a little bit more. But no, I think at this point I would already get a little bit of a line. So I just came back with a clean brush. It's like using your colorless blender. So I'm pulling it from the light to the dark just to try to blend that out somehow. There, and that would make it work. Why don't you think you're using the right brushes? Do they not hold enough water? So here's a test. Grab like a smallish medium-sized brush like this one and load it up with some good color. Here, I'll do like a green. Okay, so load it up with a decent amount of color. Okay, so load up your brush. Dab it off just a little bit because you don't need a whole lot. And then see how soon you start to get this. This is dry. So if I grab that and I run it across, see, I can make it pretty far without running out of ink and water in my brush. And then even after that, I can come back in and blend it. If you've got not such a good brush, you're not going to make it very far until it dries out. So if that's what you mean about, I don't think I have good brushes, I would just try and see how much how far you can go with the water in your brush. I think that's really important. And that's probably, and this is just me speaking like from my personal experience, but I would have to look it up and see if that's really the hallmark of a good brush, is like how much ink or how much water it will hold. Yeah, water control. You know what? I did the same thing too, Miss Tamp. I get too much water in there. But then I find if you do take your brush, if you've got too much in there, just take your dry brush, wipe it off on a wet rag. And okay, so I got too much water. Way too much water. Yeah. See how that water, that's not what I wanted. So I'm going to take a brush that I've just wiped off and just sop it up. Or you can come in with your paper towel and sop it up. So there you go. I was going to show you guys one other fun thing. I want to put this down on. Oh, you know what? I'm just going to move this whole thing out of the way. And that's watercoloring on black paper. So we did the stamping and watercoloring, which was fun. So these are the metallics, which are awesome. These are very intense as well. Whoa. This is just water, in case you're wondering. And you can use these on white as well. You don't have to use these on black. But see, this is just regular black cardstock. Black cardstock is another pretty decent cardstock to do some watercoloring on. I don't know if you can see it on here though. Maybe just barely. There it is. So I ran this through my laser printer and I can actually see the lines on here, which is pretty cool. So just grab this. Let's do. And these metallic watercolors will like mix and blend just like any other watercolor. Like I started doing a color chart and I have like a bajillion different shades from just this one small pan set. I've not done a whole lot of like detail coloring with the metallics, so I'll be interested to see if I can achieve like shading and stuff. All right, so it is 5:45. So that means that it's time for you guys to start throwing out ideas for next week. Any particular technique you want to see? We can do more watercoloring. I just don't want to burn you guys out on it. Oh, yeah. So using, a block or a little palette or anything, a plate, basically anything non-porous. I mean, obviously the plastic palettes are kind of porous. They do stain a little bit, but it really helps a lot. And then also having, if you're trying to do like specific shades of color, it's always good to have a scrap so that way you can see what it's going to be see what the shade is going to be, the intensity. Yeah, I don't know how well this is going to work out. Okay, so like I said, I've never really done shading with these before. But I thought, heck, why not? The problem is like, of course, it's like covering up. It would have been better if I had foiled it because you would see the lines through it. Because I don't think it wouldn't stick to the. Okay, so with the rest of these, I think maybe I'll foil them and give that a try and see how that works. Because otherwise, you're not really going to know what it is you're looking at, I don't think. Or it would be really hard. Yeah, I agree, Ms. Tam. I don't like using the lid either. I always use a palette or something. Okay, so Paula says blending with markers. Yeah, we can do that. I guess you can kind of see that. So it's going to be like this purpley black flower. Yeah, I'll have to keep going on that. Cool. All right, so maybe we'll do something with alcohol markers next time. Of course, we'll have tic-tac-toe challenge. I haven't done my card yet for that, so I don't know what it looks like. Maybe it'll have alcohol markers. Cool. So I hope you guys enjoyed. All of this watercolor stuff. Like I said, it's kind of like an amateur teaching other amateurs. I'm not a professional watercolorer. I did just pick up some classes. So Debbie Hughes, oh my God, she's amazing, right? She was just talking about some classes that was like, it was like this huge bundle of classes that she got for $70. And I looked at it and it was like 32 classes for $70. And it included brush lettering and some other kinds of lettering and watercoloring and some other techniques and things like that. And I thought, oh my gosh, I really have to get these. So I did end up buying them. I'll put the link in the description below if you're interested. I'm not an affiliate or anything. So, but I think it only goes, it's either, it might be over. I hope it's not. If it's not over, it is over in just a few days. So I'll share that with you if you're interested in taking a class from a professional on watercolor. And I think it would be totally worth it to see some of the things that they do and how they do it. So, because I really kind of have goals to be able to watercolor without stamping. I really would like to be able to do that. So that's why I picked up the classes. But anyway, oh, you did see it, Miss Tam. Yeah, I think it was only, but I think it might still be going on. So I'll put the link out there if anyone's interested in looking at it. But yeah, it looked like a really great bundle. So I did pick it up and I'll let you guys know. Anyway, hey, thanks for stopping by today. I'm so glad to have a whole bunch of other people out there. Pouncing the brush and no stroke. Sorry, Tiffany, I just saw your question there. Kind of, sort of. Like I have a mixed way of doing it. Sometimes it just kind of depends on where it's going. So sometimes I'm filling it in. Oops, you can't see that here. So sometimes I'm filling something in, you know, and just moving the color around. If I'm trying to get into like a little space, sometimes, yeah, I'm just pouncing and just getting those little strokes in there. I do this a lot when I'm going for shading. So I'm adding in that extra little bit of dark color, but by pouncing it instead of dragging it, because see, dragging it's going to move the ink a lot more. I find that if I pounce it, it drops the color in little droplets, and you see how that just blended out? Maybe you saw that? So I find that that technique actually works. Anyway, I hope that answered your question. If you guys have more questions, you can go back and leave them in the comments. I'll try to get back with you guys, or you can ask next week and we'll cover other things. Anyway, hey guys, I'm so glad you all came by. I'm glad I mentioned something yesterday in our little crafty group. I'm glad you guys came. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it helped you get over your fear of watercoloring. It's just paper. It's just ink. Just pick it up and give it a try without any expectation and see what you come up with. Like I said, starting off with some of these things to begin with is really helpful to feel comfortable with the medium, right? So anyway. Oh, Miss Tim. Check out tomorrow. We're doing a light up hop with Craft Collabs and Pear Blossom Press. Amanda, she was on tonight. So be sure to stop by my channel here tomorrow. I think that goes live at 9 a.m. Central. We're going to have a hop of 10 people that are doing light up cards. So yeah, stop by. Cool. Okay, guys. Hey, I am going to head out for the evening. I've got to find some dinner and some chill time. So I will talk to you guys next week. And until then, hey, have a good time crafting.